Your story may not have a happy beginning, but that's not who you are. The rest of your story is who you choose to be. At least, this is what the soothsayer says to Poe in Kung Fu Panda 2. Right at the turning point when he achieves ultimate boon, his inner peace. This is a lesson that many mythical orphan heroes come to realize that one way or another, they need in their journeys. But why is becoming an orphan so common in archetypal stories in the first place? Well, from what I understand, it is because in order to undergo some sort of transformation, the hero must first understand who they are, where they came from. After this epiphany, then typically they're able to learn more about themselves and go further into their journey and change that much more dramatically. This provides the hero with an interesting road to self-discovery, with Poe being no different. Poe's departure started before he could truly understand what was going on. His mother had to abandon him in a radish basket, while the Panda village was being destroyed, in hopes that he could survive. He then experiences his call to adventure when he is told that China needs him to save them and Kung Fu, all while finding out that his childhood hero, Master Thundering Rhino, had died. He accepts the mission along with his allies, the Furious Five. The Furious Five. Poe is arguably a willing hero who just complains from time to time. His temptation and refusal to the call come when his father, the goose, Mr. Ping, begs him not to leave and go into a strange city with strange noodles. Poe goes anyway because he knows he must discover his past in order to achieve inner peace and to discover his true identity. His adopted father is afraid of losing him physically and emotionally after revealing that they are not biologically related. Poe now has to cross the first threshold by going into Gangmin City. He takes a boat, going there to face his first trial, trying to fight with his inner peace so he could just achieve it through force. He finds comfort in one of his allies, Tigress, both being abandoned by their families and not knowing where they came from. But he is then faced with the Threshold Guardians, the fleet of wolves. He has not yet conquered this first trial when he is faced with his next, defeating the shadow figure, Lord Shen, the peacock. Poe's mentors are Master Shifu when he is back in his homeland and training ground and oversees the soothsayer. The Elixir is when he is finally able to actually master his inner peace. Although Shifu points out that it did take Shifu almost a lifetime, whereas Poe achieved it at a very young age, which is almost unheard of. The abyss that Poe falls into is with the shadow figure. Lord Shen is realizing that he knows more about Poe's history than Poe could ever know. Now Poe is faced with this dilemma. He has a moment where he could stop Shen, capture him, defeat him. But if he does this, then he would never know his true identity, where he came from. So he has to contemplate learning the truth about himself or stopping the bad guy. Poe's transformation comes when he almost died in the water after being shot by Shen in the chest by a cannon. The soothsayer encourages him to let his past flow and not block out any of the bad nightmares that he thinks he's having, as they're really just his memories. In this moment, he hones inner peace and uses it to the final confrontation to defeat the shadow figure. Upon Poe's return, he goes back and accepts Mr. Ping as his real father. By doing this, Poe is also showing that he is able to go from the ordinary to the special back to the ordinary world and live in harmony with them. He shows this by simultaneously cooking with his dad while showing that he can still continue his Kung Fu life. Now, with the orphan hero archetype, it's very common where the orphan is found on a doorstep, is deemed as a misfit to society, and ends up putting his own world on only his shoulders. But Kung Fu Panda 2 has a unique way of showing all of these aspects. Unlike other orphan stories, his childhood was not messed up where he thought everyone hated him. Sure, there were moments that he thought that he didn't fit in with society and kind of stood out, but he felt a calling to do stuff with his life, while simultaneously forcing himself not to remember the bad, his mother leaving him, his village being destroyed. Poe did not see himself as a victim for most of the story. Instead, he recognized that all of his childhood trauma was blocked out for years, only to help him become the panda that he is today, who he ended up accepting, even once he realized his true past. Even the moment that he was told that he was adopted, he did not throw blame on anyone, though he was surprisingly shocked. His villain, Lord Shen, attempted to say that Poe was abandoned because no one loved him, by throwing all these other hardships in his way and taking away everything. But, unlike the common story, that thought never crossed Poe's mind. He knew where he stood and where he belonged and who he belonged with. He didn't focus on the suffering. Most heroes use their sufferings to shape themselves, whereas he went against all odds to get through the self-discovery and just be awesome. So, in conclusion, skadoosh.